It is the last topic that we are revising. It's called audit clearance. Audit clearance, and reporting. Audit clearance and what year and reporting. Audit clearance and reporting. Audit clearance and reporting. So the concept is, it has come to the finishing line. Here we are. We are, for example, on Friday, and we're supposed to be giving our report, auditor's report, say on Wednesday next week. Very few days remaining. We've been able to collect all the evidence. Now we're in the process of thinking of how will our audit report look like. Ladies and gentlemen, there are things that I will have to really discuss with management. It's not proper for you to just wake up and say, I'm giving you a qualified opinion. I'm giving you an advanced opinion. If you do that, of course, this organization will be closed. And we never came in as an auditor to ensure that we are basically burying the company. Remember, the moment you give a bad opinion just like that, what will happen outside there? The customers, the suppliers of this organization will start viewing this organization from a bad perspective. They'll stop doing business with this particular company. The investors at the stock exchange will stop buying shares of this company. So it will be very important, ladies and gentlemen, and that is why as an auditor, you must ensure that from the beginning, that the management are quite aware of their responsibilities, which are basically, ladies and gentlemen, preparation of what your financial statements, looking at the company's going concern, will not be in doubt in the future, right? Establishing internal control systems, let them know that from the beginning. So as you come to the audit clearance here, you'll be basically discussing with them. I told you guys, you are to do this and this. I told you guys, you are not to limit my scope of operation. Now you have limited my scope of operation within the few remaining days. What are you going to do to mitigate my reservations of giving you guys a bad report? What will you do? Right? So you keep on, in this case here, engaging. Now you are engaging. Get, in this case here, your file of errors. Aggregate, for example, all the errors that are there. You're doing clearance. You see whether the aggregated error is very material. If it's immaterial, of course, in this case here, I will not be able to give a bad opinion. Because as an auditor, we work with materiality quite a lot. So if the total error is immaterial, then in this case here, I need to consider, I need, of course, I have to advise them, because I wouldn't want to be seeing these errors, right? I want to advise the management, but most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, if those errors are immaterial, then I'll give what we call an unqualified opinion. But what if in this case, ladies and gentlemen, the errors are very material? If they're very material, before I give a bad opinion, I'll give these directors a chance of rectifying the mistakes. I'll even go ahead to draft my opinion. It's just a draft opinion that I'll share with these directors. In case you guys do not work on these errors, this is how my opinion will look like. So at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, these people, at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, these people have to look at in advance the kind of opinion that I'll be giving, and then they should be able to look at the repercussions, especially if I'm going to give a bad opinion. Chances are the pressure I'm giving them will be enough to ensure that they do whatever they change, they rectify the mistakes. Now, for us to appreciate what I'm talking about this morning, I would want us to go to our ACCA revision kit. We go to ACCA revision kit and look at question number 112. Let's look at question number 112. I know you have this, and most probably you even printed, right? We go to question number 112. We go to question number 112. Question number 112. Corso air which has been amended, was amended by ACCA. So we are told here that 𝗕𝗓𝗓 is a large, first of all, you start by reading the requirement. On the basis of the information provided above, describe the auditor's report that you consider is likely to be issued in the case of 𝗕𝗓𝗓, giving reasons. What kind of an auditor's report are you going to give? B, explain the difficulties that would be faced by 𝗕𝗓𝗓 and its auditors if 𝗕𝗓𝗓's audit report made reference to going concern issues. This is what I was explaining. The difficulties that the company will face. When we make reference to the going concern issues in the company, ladies and gentlemen, for sure, this company automatically may not even be in business in the future. I'll not be able to give this company a chance of working on their going concern issues. If I just go on my report, auditor's report, and then I say, for example, 𝗕𝗓𝗓 has a problem to do with what you're going concern. If it's suppliers who have been giving this company credit, these guys will stop forthwith and start demanding cash up front. Some customers who are quite careful with their reputation may not want to be associated with you. Even creditors, the guys who owe you quite a lot of money, these guys here will be salivating at you are going down. They'll be holding back, paying you, praying that you collapse sooner than later, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, this is quite important for us to appreciate. Here we are. So I'm trying to look at the questions here and thinking loud. Like now part B, explain the difficulties that would be faced by 𝗕𝗓𝗓 and its auditors if 𝗕𝗓𝗓's audit report made reference to going concern. So before I make reference to going concern, hey, I'll have to talk to these directors. Tell these directors, if I make this in my report is going to be read by thousands and thousands of people outside here. There will be consequences. The moment we make this, and perhaps it happens that your company is quite sensitive like banks. When we make a reference on going concern challenges in our company, we expect the following day a stampede of customers running to the bank's branches all over the country wanting to withdraw their deposits. It's that crazy, and then you run out of money, you close. So it's important for us to discuss really these consequences, because our idea as auditors is to ensure that these companies are able to make corrections so that we give a good report to the public. We are here to ensure, ladies and gentlemen, that the company's internal control systems are strengthened. We are not here to kill organizations. And of course, also we have to be quite factual. You have to be factual. But at the end of the day, before you start going outside there with your facts, try to sweep the house. Try to sweep the house inside here. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are told here, 𝗕𝗓𝗓 there. 𝗕𝗓𝗓 is a large telecommunications company that is listed on a stock exchange. You can imagine it's listed in the stock exchange. The shares are trading in the stock exchange. So if I give a bad report, I can see a bad thing that the share price poof down. It's highly geared, because like many such companies, it borrowed a large sum to pay for a license to operate a mobile phone network with technology that has not proved popular. The company share price has dropped by 50%. These are indicators of going concern. Has dropped by 50% during the last 3 years, and there have been several changes of senior management. These are, of course, indicators of going concern. Management, high labor turnover of management is a sad situation during the period. There has been considerable speculation in the press over the last 6 months about whether the company can survive without being taken over by a rival. There have been 3 approaches made to the company by other companies regarding a possible takeover, but all have failed, mainly because the bidders pulled out of the deal as a result of the drop in the share prices generally. The company has net assets. Good thing. It has net assets. It has net assets. It has not gotten into a negative net assets position, meaning that the liabilities are not more than the assets. When the liabilities are more than the assets, then that is cause for worry. So you're told here that the company has net assets, but has found it necessary to severely curtail its capital investment program. Some commentators consider these to be fundamental to the future growth of the business. Others consider that the existing business is fundamentally sound. You can see that there are grounds. There are grounds. There are people who consider these organizations, ladies and gentlemen, here to be fundamentally sound. It has also been necessary for the company to restructure its finances. You can see this company, the directors are not lying down. The directors are doing something. They want to restructure their financial capital structure, right? Right. Detailed disclosures of all these matters have always been made in the financial statements. They've always been made in the financial statements. No reference has been made to the going concern status of the company in previous auditor's report on financial statements, and the deterioration in circumstances in the current year is no worse than it has been in previous years. Right? So, ladies and gentlemen, going concern issues were not raised in last year's audit report. And we are told that this year is no worse than the previous years. So then why should I, as an auditor, really go ahead to make mention, to give a bad opinion over this organization regarding going concern? And yet you can see that they are really trying, right? They're trying. The only thing that I need to do is to check this particular hustling, this particular efforts that are trying to put down to ensure that the company comes up. Are they sustainable, right? Are they going to bear fruits in future, right? Should I be able to convince myself that, hey, these guys are working good enough, they're putting in efforts here to ensure that things in future will awaken, then I'll not give a bad report. I won't give a bad report. So required, on the basis of the information provided above, describe the auditor's report that you would consider is likely to be issued in the case of what year? In the case of 𝗕𝗟𝗢𝗓 company. So in the case of 𝗕𝗟𝗢𝗓 company, what auditor's report do you think, ladies and gentlemen, is very suitable here? Is very suitable here. So in an exam situation, you guys, what would have you written down? In an exam situation, what would have you written down? In an exam situation, what would have you written down? What would have you written down in an exam situation? In an exam situation. So you're told here, remember you have answers, and I've taken time to discuss this quite a lot. Mine is basically to come and read this answer for you. Now, when you're reading this book, remember, it's important for you to look at this marking scheme. So report issues to 𝗕𝗟𝗢𝗓. Difficulties associated with reports on going concern. So report to 𝗕𝗟𝗓, although the company is obviously experiencing some difficulties, the evidence provided does not suggest that the business will cease to trade in the future, right? I'll not rely on what is in the media. I would want to get concrete evidence regarding this organization failing in the future, which I should use as the basis of giving my report. So far, I've not gotten very serious evidence, which in this case suggests that the company will cease to trade in the future. The company has net assets and still appears to have options available to it in order to resolve its problems. The fact that the company has taken steps to restructure its finance and has been able to do so is also a positive sign. On the basis that the situation is no worse than in the previous years and that no reference has been made to going concern in the past, it would not seem appropriate to refer to it this year. So an auditor's report with a modified audit opinion would be issued. I'll go ahead and issue a good report. I'll go ahead and issue a good report. Now, the other questions and gentlemen made reference to what year the difficulty is here to the company if I issue a bad report. If the auditor's report mentions a going concern problem, It's likely that 𝗕𝗓 will find it difficult to raise finance from banks or investors. It is often said that it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, although this should not dissuade the auditor from modifying the audit opinion if the auditor feels there is genuine need. In addition, customers and suppliers may notice the reference in the auditor's report and subsequently be more cautious in doing business with 𝗕𝗓. This is likely to further worsen the position and liquidity of the business. For example, 𝗕𝗓 suppliers may decrease the number of days credit they allow 𝗕𝗓 or their credit limit. The relationship between the auditor and the management of 𝗕𝗓 could become very strained. Should we give a bad opinion, then of course we will not be in this business come next year. Our relationship, ladies and gentlemen, will be very severely strained, particularly where the management of 𝗕𝗓 genuinely believe that no reference is required. This is particularly difficult as the matter is essentially one of judgment and will rarely be clear-cut. In extreme circumstances, the auditors may lose the audit and the fees from associated one-year work. In this particular case, as there has been no reference to going concern in the past, reference to it this year would imply that the situation has deteriorated further or that previous reports were not correct. This is particularly a contentious issue as there is an ongoing public concern about the role of the auditor in warning shareholders about matters which will affect the value of their investment. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't want you to take notes. Remember, already you have these books with you. The most important thing, ladies and gentlemen, here is to appreciate the fact that these people, honestly, they are trying. We are told in this case here, they are trying to restructure their finances, their capital structure, maybe issue more debt, right? Or issue more shares, raise equity, try to do like what Kenya Airways is doing, right? Right? And again, when I make reference to previous years' audit working papers, I'm realizing that the same situations that are being mentioned were there in the previous years, but the previous auditors never made mention. So these directors are really trying. The only thing that we need to do as their auditors is to sit down with management, try to look at really what are the loopholes that we could be having in the organization that makes this organization, for example, lose funds, right? When you tell me that, for example, you're restructuring your finances, could you kindly give me, this is evidential, could you give me, in this case here, a concrete evidence that there is a bank that you have an agreement with them, which will be able to give you some facilities in the future, right? These significant shareholders that you have, like the organizational shareholders, could we have an undertaking from one of the shareholders, the key shareholders, that they are willing, in this case here, to inject money to the business in the very future? The moment we are able to get such kind of an undertaking, ladies and gentlemen, from banks, from key shareholders, etc., then there is no need for us to go ahead and put the last nail on the coffin. Remember, we as auditors are not supposed to be morticians. After all, the moment we go and give bad reports like that, then in the future, we shall not be in business. We are basically, in this case here, killing the goose, in this case here, that lays what here? The eggs, right? We're not saying that, again, we need to really have the kids' gloves when you're fighting against these companies. No, but we're trying to really streamline. We're clearing our audit with them. The last final phase, we're trying to streamline things to ensure that things will be okay in the future. Great. Now, from there, ladies and gentlemen, we go straight away to the second question here. The second question is question number 113. Question number 113. So question number 113, of course, you guys have this book. So question number 113, we are dealing with the last topic, revising the last topic. This is quite a short one, but very popular in your exams. Going concern and auditor's report. So A, describe external auditor's responsibilities and the work that the auditor must perform in relation to going concern status of the company. This is something that I've repeated severally, which I would want to hear from you, great students of mine. Could you kindly give me the responsibilities of the external auditor as pertains going concern? As pertains going concern, could you kindly help me do that? Right? You know, there are two questions in one. You need to describe the external auditor's responsibilities and the work that the auditor must perform in relation to the going concern status of the company. I'm giving you exactly 3 minutes, and I would want to see students really writing something there. If you don't write, I'll be very sad. No. Just try writing something sketchy. Try writing something sketchy. You know, there is the management responsibilities of a going concern, and there is the auditor's responsibility on going concern. So I'm waiting to see whether there is anybody who is typing anything. I'm waiting to see whether there is anybody who is typing anything really. I know why students fail AAA. It's because of what here. Most of them, of course, they know the subject, but the answers that they have are very sketchy. Very sketchy. And they don't take even time to read the questions very well. They don't take time to read the questions very well. Like here, there are two, these are twins. Two of them. The auditor's responsibilities and the work that the auditor must perform. Ladies and gentlemen, I can never, in this case, ladies and gentlemen, miss out any mark on the auditor's responsibilities, right? The auditor's responsibilities of a going concern. I'll never miss out on this. I'll never miss out on this. I can see a student who has taken time to respond. It's good to honor this. Student. Yeah, so external auditors are responsible for determining whether the financial statements of the firm reflects a true and fair view of their status. How that is too general. Remember here, they are specifically talking about what here? The responsibilities of a going concern. Right? Of a going concern. Responsibilities of a going concern. Responsibilities of a going concern. So what you're supposed to know, ladies and gentlemen, here is that normally the management will do an assessment. Will do an assessment of what here the company's going concern status. Going concern status. This is what the management is supposed to do every time. These guys must do what here every time. These guys here must assess. The directors, the management, they must assess and tell the whole world whether the company's going concern status is okay or otherwise. They must do that. So my first responsibility as an auditor is to come and evaluate this assessment process. My first responsibility is to evaluate the assessment of going concern by management. That is the first thing that I'm supposed to do. And how do I do it? I'll obtain forecasts. Remember, these guys, when they're doing this assessment, they normally look ahead 1 year. They normally look ahead 1 year, 12 months ahead. So I would want to see when they're looking at 12 months ahead, ladies and gentlemen, then what are the forecasts that they have in place? Those forecasts, of course, they must be having assumptions like their revenues will grow by 5%. 5%. So if they tell me that their revenues will be growing by 5% or whatever percentage, I have to check their adequacy. I must, in this case here, get proper evidence whether the 5% is achievable, right? So I must talk to a few people here. I must talk, for example, to the sales/marketing director, etc. Now, from there, ladies and gentlemen, I'll also myself, it's not my work, but myself, I'll also be looking at the events, which in this case here could cast doubt on the going concern status of the company. Are there events, material events, that may cast? So I'll be looking at the newspapers to see whether people are talking about RCM outside there, right? When I'm outside there, at times I could be floating a few, but I will be quite keen to see whether there are events here. So what is the media saying about this? So these events, ladies and gentlemen, for example, are there customers, our customers, who owe us quite a lot of money, who have been declared bankrupt, or who are going through, in this case here, difficult situations, right? So events like COVID, right? So I'll be looking at some of these things. Right. And then, of course, ladies and gentlemen, I'll be looking at what here, the concept of I must gather a lot of what here, evidence. And when I'm gathering evidence, I'll be doing a lot of what here, discussions. I'll be doing a lot of discussions with management and discussions with, for example, banks through this bank circularization, etc. I like what 𝗕𝗟𝗢𝗜𝗓𝗓 is saying there. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want us to go through this very fast. All right. Okay. So it is here. So responsibilities, external auditors' responsibilities and the work that the auditor should perform in relation to going concern. Number one is to evaluate the management's assessment of the entity's ability to continue as a going concern. That is the first thing. Number two is to consider whether there are and remain alert throughout the audit for events or conditions that may cast significant doubt on the entity's ability to continue as a going concern. Next, and inquire of management its knowledge of events or conditions beyond the period, beyond those 12 months, beyond the period of the assessment that may cast significant doubt on the entity's ability to continue as a going concern. And then lastly, obtain, of course, sufficient appropriate audit evidence to determine whether a material uncertainty exists if events or conditions are identified that may cast significant doubt on the entity's ability to continue what year as a going concern. Thank you so much. Now, there is something that I would want to, again, to hear from you. We have seen what the auditor's responsibilities of a going concern are. So then what is the audit work that you guys should be able to do as auditors of a going concern? What are the audit procedures of a going concern? Audit procedures of a going concern. Remember, anything you say here will be correct. Audit procedures of a going concern. Audit procedures of a going concern. So 3 minutes, and today I would want to see. Thank you very much, Gilly, but I would want to see my students as usual talking. Is it because you guys haven't woken up yet? It will be possible that you haven't woken up. Yes, thanks, Mary. The audit procedures of a going concern. I'm giving you 3 minutes. The audit procedures of a going concern. The audit procedures of a going concern. So I'm giving you exactly 3 minutes. Ensure that you are able to give us this. Okay, so in the interest of time, because we only have 1 hour, we only have 1 hour. So whenever they talk of audit work, whenever they talk of audit procedures, ladies and gentlemen, as somebody is telling us there, always think about what here? The RAEOU. 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 Audit procedures, audit work, substantive tests, right? So we have this is analytical procedures. We have inquiries and the third-party confirmations. We have inspections. Like inspections, I'll get a whole ton of what here? A whole ton of points. There are very many documents to be inspected. This is where we talk of review correspondences between the bank and the company. Review correspondences between, for example, if it's a going concern challenge, which has been brought about by some court matter, I'll review correspondences between the lawyers and what here the company, right? Review, right? I have observation, and then we have what we call recalculations. So, ladies and gentlemen, under analytical procedures, what will I do as an auditor? It is to calculate ratios, appropriate ratios, like the liquidity ratios, and do comparisons of these ratios, right? I'm analyzing, I'm computing ratios. I would want to see the trends, right? Very, very important. So here I'll mention so many things, right? I'm doing comparisons. For example, if it's a loan, like you're told that this is highly geared, I'll calculate gearing ratios. If they are given, mine is simply to analyze. Look at gearing ratios for last year, gearing ratios for this year, etc. Right? And the inquiries and third-party confirmations here, I'll do so many things. The first inquiries that I'll throw around are to the management. I mean, I would want the management to explain themselves to me, how they reached the conclusion that the company is a going concern. So as they talk to me one-on-one, I'll tell them, hey, you guys know, give me a management representation, give me a letter of representations regarding going concern. Third party, of course, inquiries, like here I would want to talk to regarding going concern. I would want to talk to the banks. I would want to circulate, to get circulars from banks. So of course I would want to see whether the bank balance in the financial statements is correct, number one. Number two, I would also want to view any bank correspondences, right? Or even ask banks whether these guys are servicing their loans very well. Because that, of course, will have an impact regarding what here, regarding the ability to continue in the future. You can even ask the banks regarding what here, sufficiency of collateral given in the future. Will they be able to advance more money to this particular what here, to this particular company, right? Under inspections, and gentlemen, there are so many things to inspect. Here, I'll think about, first of all, the board minutes. I want to see what the directors are saying. Right? So there are so many things that you need to review. The media, press. I would want to, in this case, here to review, for example, correspondences between the bank and the company, correspondences between the lawyer. There's so much things here to be reviewed. I would want to review their forecasts. Review the forecasts, and any assumptions in this case here made, right? Recalculations, of course, ladies and gentlemen, if they have serious calculations they have done themselves, I would want to see whether those calculations are correct. I'll pick on one of them, sample basis, and then I'll be able to do what here to calculate something. So here you will be able to have, a plethora of points to write, so long as you are a student who is exposed a little bit, right? And remember, you are making those particular audit procedures in relation to what you're going concern, that I'll evaluate the assumptions made, by the management to see whether they are appropriate, evaluate, review, etc., talk to, document, etc. So when you look at this, the audit work, we are told as part of the overall risk assessment, the auditor must consider whether there are any events or conditions and related business risks which may cast significant doubt on the company's ability. The auditor should evaluate the process by which management has assessed the viability. So you have to evaluate that process really. Does it make sense? Does it hold water? So the auditor should evaluate the process by which the management has assessed the viability of the company. The auditor should make inquiries of those charged with governance and examine supporting documentation such as cash flow forecasts and budgets. The auditor must consider whether the period used by management to assess, yes, this is very important, whether the period used by management to assess the viability of the company is sufficient. If the period covers less than 12 months from the reporting date, the auditor should ask management to extend the period to 12 months from the reporting date. The auditor should evaluate the assumptions used by management and determine whether they seem reasonable in the light of other known facts. Whether events or conditions have been identified which may cast significant doubt on the entity's ability to continue as a going concern, the auditor must review the management plans for future actions and gather sufficient appropriate audit evidence to confirm whether a material uncertainty exists. This will include analyzing and discussing the cash flow and interim financial statements. Yes, this is very important. Reviewing the terms of loans, debentures and loan agreements. Reading minutes of the meeting of shareholders and directors for reference to financing difficulties. Inquiring of the company lawyers regarding litigation and claims. Assessing the possibility of raising additional funds. Reviewing events after the period end. The auditor must seek written representations from management regarding its plans for future for future action. So I don't know whether, ladies and gentlemen, we are together up to now. Are we together really? Are we together, ladies and gentlemen? Are we together? Are we together? Are we together? Don't be labored to write notes because this is a book that already you have. It's a book that already you have. Great. So then you go to part B. Describe the possible auditor's reports that can be issued where the going concern status of a company is called into question. Your answer should describe the circumstances in which they can be issued. The types of reports. Should we give an adverse report? Should we give an except for qualified report? Should we give, in this case here, a disclaimer? Right? So that one I expect your answer. Take like 3 minutes to think through, and then you advise. So remember that this basically is a what if. statement. Very easy, very easy, very easy. So remember, ladies and gentlemen, various types of reports that we have, which you shall never forget. The various types of reports that we have, which you shall never forget. And a qualified opinion, if there is insufficient evidence regarding the going concern of the company, like in the case of course of company, okay. Now listen and listen to me very well. Types of audit reports. So we have what we call unmodified, and then we have what we call the modified. Now, unmodified is a good report. If ladies and gentlemen, if the management, you know, as I told you last time, there are two bases of making financial statements. One of the bases is going concern basis. And then number two, we have what we call a breakup basis. So if we believe that our business is healthy, then we prepare financial statements on a going concern basis. If we believe as directors that our business is not doing very well, it's going to break up very soon, is going concern is under threat, then we write our financial statements on breakup basis. So now that we have going concern challenges and we have admitted, so then what we will do as directors, we shall prepare our financial statements on a breakup basis. Breakup basis is whatever assets, for example, we have, we shall not give them net book value. No. We shall go to the market and ask, if, for example, we want to sell this thing today, how much will we fetch? etc. So breakup basis. So if the management has been able to recognize that they have going concern challenges, and in the process, they have done the right thing. They have prepared their financial statements on a breakup basis. So the management has done the right thing. The management has done the right thing. The management has done the right thing and prepared their financial statements on a breakup basis. And then they have done what we call adequate disclosures in the notes. They've said, when you look at our financial statements, please know that these financial statements have been prepared on a breakup basis because we are going to explode next year. We will not be there from our assessment. Next year shall not be there. And he has done proper disclosures. He has said we can't be there because of number one, we have got this litigant who is very aggressive, right? Who is really chasing us, right? We also have issues, strong issues to do with COVID. We're not able to raise enough money to pay our obligations, etc. So if he has done proper disclosures and he has really done the right thing in terms of preparing the financial statements, then as an auditor, I'll issue unqualified opinion. As an auditor, I'll issue a good opinion, unqualified opinion. But now remember that I have to emphasize to the users of the financial statements in my auditor's report, right? I'll need, in this case here, to emphasize. So I'll need, ladies and gentlemen, a paragraph in my auditor's reports called material uncertainty relating to going concern. So I'll issue an emphasis of matter paragraph under a big title there called material uncertainty relating to going concern, relating to going concern. So I'll go ahead and issue a good report. The financial statements of RCM portray a true and fair view. Issue a good report. And then, of course, the basis of opinion, I'll be able to give a very good, why am I, in this case here, giving this good report from evidence collected, blah, 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 blah. My responsibilities, blah, 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 blah. The auditor's the management's responsibility, blah, 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 blah. This is why I arrived at this particular. After that, there is this emphasis of matter, material uncertainty relating to going concern. I'll draw the attention of the users of the financial statements and tell them, as per note number 6, raised in the director's financial statements disclosures, the company has a big issue to do with what you are going concern because of this and this. But remember, whatever I'm just making reference to, I'm emphasizing Something that was raised by who? Directors. That is if there is what here? Adequate disclosures. Now, number two, what about now here? Now there are no adequate disclosures. I'm telling these directors, I'm already seeing that there's a big problem ahead, but these directors are saying, no, we don't want our shareholders to know, right? But we can see when we try adding 1 + 1, we are not getting 2 as auditors. We can see this company will not be there next year. So meaning that there is a big disagreement. When they want to do things looking north, and we know for sure that things are what here south down there, things are very bad. So in that case, then I will issue an adverse opinion, because you know that is very pervasive. That's a huge disagreement, right? That's pervasive. That's big, because they want me to cheat now. That's big. That's pervasive. I'll issue an adverse opinion. Now, what if I'm not able to collect sufficient, appropriate audit evidence regarding going concern? Then I'm not a magician. Remember, as an auditor, I'll base my opinion on evidence I collect. If I'm not able to collect any evidence, then, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, I'll basically disclaim. I'll not place any opinion. I'll issue what we call a disclaimer of opinion. So please, you have the answers here, which I would want you to go and read later on, Don't forget to read them. You have your answers there. You have your answers here. So like the auditor's report, where the use of the going concern assumption is appropriate, but a material uncertainty exists, provided that the auditor agrees with the basis of preparation of the accounts and the situation is adequately disclosed, and an unmodified opinion is issued, which is the same as an unqualified opinion. The audit report will, however, include an emphasis of matter paragraph highlighting the uncertainty to the user and referring them to details in the disclosure note. Note 2, where the material uncertainty exists, but the situation is not adequately disclosed, the opinion should be modified on the grounds that there is insufficient disclosure and the financial statements are materially misstated. Depending on the specific circumstances, this may be a qualified except for or an adverse opinion. If the auditor's judgment, in the auditor's judgment, the company will not be able to continue as a going concern, right? And the financial statements have been prepared on a going concern basis, the auditor shall express an adverse opinion. If the auditors are unable to form an opinion because they were not able to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence, they shall use an except for, qualified, or disclaimer. If management is unwilling to extend its assessment where the period considered is less than 12 months from the reporting date, the auditor shall consider the need to modify the opinion as a result of not obtaining. The thing is, just get a general overview of this thing. Get a general overview of this thing and you will be okay. So if you don't mind, we shall meet tomorrow at the same time, 5 a.m. Keep time. Good day. Bye-bye.